of the New Channel Peoples. My name is Veda Siga. I'm the director for the Long Beach electoral area. I'd like to introduce you to the ACRD planning staff. Mike Erg on my left is the general manager of planning and development. Alex Dyer on my right is the planning manager. Amy Anaka is a planner for the ACRD, and Kathy MacArthur is the planning assistant. This hearing is being held in the ACRD boardroom and electronically by Zoom. It's being recorded and is live streaming on the ACRD website. Would staff please provide direction and instruction on how to participate in this hearing?
Happy to. Thank you, Director Siga. And thank you for joining us. We have a mix of participants joining online on the Zoom webinar, and then staff and the area director here in the boardroom at the ACRD office. If you are watching the live stream, we are live streaming the meeting on YouTube and linked on our website right now. If you're watching that and you wish to join the meeting, the details on how to connect can be found in the Zoom meeting invite document, which are linked on the public hearing webpage. I just want to quickly start by highlighting some of the tools we have in Zoom that will help you participate. If you are participating online, you have the option to turn on or off your video or mute or unmute your audio so other meeting participants can see you and hear you. We ask that you keep your audio muted until you are going to speak in order to reduce the background noise where we can. There will be an opportunity to speak after staff introduce the OCP amendment bylaw and summarize the agency and First Nation referral responses and the public correspondence that we've received ahead of the meeting. So when the chair calls upon any members of the public to comment or speak on the bylaw, we ask that you either put your hand up or call out that you'd like to speak. Once you've been recognized by the chair, we ask that you state your name and address, followed by your comments or questions, and that's when you would be unmuting yourself if you're on Zoom. And finally, on Zoom as well, there's a chat feature that we want to highlight. It's accessed from the controls on your screen. If you have a question or would like to make a comment at any time, please feel free to use that feature. All comments will be addressed by staff during the public hearing. So feel free to add that if you think of anything as we're moving along or as we're introducing the bylaw. These comments will be brought forward when the chair asks for public comment. And again, there will be a final opportunity prior to the end of the public hearing to ask any final questions or make any final comments on the bylaw. So thank you.
Thank you. The subject of this hearing is Bylaw P1447. This bylaw is an official community plan amendment to the existing South Long Beach official community plan with Bylaw P1166. If you have questions or comments about any other unrelated topics, I would ask that you contact the regional district staff after this hearing has been terminated. Staff now read out the notice of public hearing.
Thank you. Notice of public hearing. A public hearing for residents and property owners in Electoral Area C, Long Beach, has been scheduled to consider Bylaw P1447. Hearing details: Thursday, March 30th, 2023 at 7 p.m. Public hearing for Bylaw P1447, South Long Beach Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw. Electronic call-in or in-person attendance at the ACRD office, 3008 Fifth Avenue, Port Alberni. A public hearing for residents and property owners within Electoral Area C, Long Beach, will be held to consider Bylaw P1447. This bylaw is an OCP amendment to the existing South Long Beach OCP bylaw P1166. As part of the zoning bylaw review project, amendments are being considered to the 6 ACRD electoral area OCPs to align OCP policies and objectives with proposed updated zoning bylaw, available at www.acrd.bc.ca/ZB review. The public hearing will be held by the director for electoral area C, the alternate director, or the chairperson of the regional district. The board resolution making this delegation, Bylaw P1447, and all relevant background documents are available for review in the ACRD office and are available as supplementary information at www.acrd.bc.ca/events/30-3-2023/. /. This public hearing will be recorded and live streamed on the ACRD website. Planning staff are available to answer questions in person, through email, or by phone during regular office hours, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday, March 15th to March 30th, 2023, excluding statutory holidays. Anyone who feels their interest in property will be affected by the proposed bylaw will be afforded a reasonable opportunity to be heard. If you wish to participate in the public hearing in person, electronically, or by phone, full instructions to do so can be provided by contacting planning staff at the ACRD office by email at planning@acrd.bc.ca or by phone at 250-720-2700. In addition, participation instructions are included in the supplementary information available at www.acrd.bc.ca/events/30-3-2023/. The public hearing will be conducted from the ACRD office. Written correspondence can be submitted to the ACRD by one of the following methods: hard copy delivered to the ACRD office in person or by mail, email sent to planning@acrd.bc.ca, fax sent to 250-723-1327. Email or fax correspondence will only be considered received if receipt confirmation is provided by ACRD staff. Written submissions provided in advance of the public hearing must be received by the ACRD no earlier than 8 a.m. on March 15th, 2023, and no later than 4 p.m. on March 30th, 2023, to ensure their inclusion in the public record. Correspondence submitted ahead of the public hearing outside of these parameters will not be included. That's it.
Thank you. The purpose of a public hearing is to receive input, written and verbal, from any person who believes that their interest in property is affected by the bylaw. Board of Directors will receive full minutes of this hearing before voting on the bylaw. Staff are taking minutes that summarize the issues that are raised, so please speak clearly to ensure accuracy. Would staff please introduce the proposal?
Yes, happy to. Thank you. So the bylaw P1447, as you heard, is an official community plan amendment to the existing South Long Beach OCP bylaw P1166, which was originally adopted by the ACRD in 2007. The OCP amendment bylaw generally includes updates to align OCP policies and objectives with the draft updated zoning bylaw. As part of the zoning bylaw review project, all 6 of the electoral area OCPs in Banfield, Long Beach, and the Alberni Valley are being amended to align policies with the draft zoning bylaw. I want to start off by highlighting that the comprehensive rewrite of the ACRD zoning bylaw is not being considered as part of this public hearing, and that the zoning bylaw remains in draft form. Any changes to the updated zoning bylaw can still be considered, and staff continue to engage with the public, with referral agencies, and with the board members on refining that draft. The most recent draft was published on October 2022 and can be found on the ACRD zoning bylaw review webpage. So consideration of the updated zoning bylaw by the board for a first time is anticipated in May 2023. Following this, a public hearing for that updated zoning bylaw would be held anticipated at least to be held in June 2023, which will provide again an additional opportunity for engagement and public input on zoning related items. So back to the bylaw that we're dealing with tonight, the South Long Beach OCP Amendment Bylaw P1447 was given first reading by the board in April 2022. The memorandum that was considered by the board during that meeting and a copy of the bylaw with first reading are available online on the ACRD website if you would like to check that out, and hard copies are available in person here in the boardroom. The bylaw provides a line-by-line list of amendments within bylaw P1447. Also available on the website is a consolidated version of the OCP text incorporating all of the proposed amendments, and the updated land use designation and development permit area maps are available online on the ACRD website and again in person here in the boardroom. So I want to highlight the amendments that are proposed in the OCP bylaw, the OCP amendment bylaw. Beginning with the bylaw proposes to update the names of the land use designation. So updated rural residential land use to residential use, and updated country residential to rural use. And this was done mainly to align the names with the land use designations in the other 6 electoral area OCPs. And it's also standardized policy wording across all 6 of the electoral area OCPs that we have in the region where appropriate. Relating to housing, there have been some proposed changes that have been included within this bylaw amendment. The ACRD has proposed to increase the permitted maximum floor area of an accessory dwelling unit or a smaller secondary home from 70 square meters to 90 square meters and reduce the minimum lot size required to locate an accessory dwelling unit on a lot from 0.8 of a hectare, which is 2 acres, down to 0.4 of a hectare or 1 acre. So essentially, this would allow an accessory dwelling unit on any residential or rural lot with a 1 acre minimum lot size. Also relating to housing, a statement about the consideration of the housing needs reports has been included in the OCP, recognizing that the Long Beach housing needs report and the West Coast housing reports were received by the board in November 2021. So we look forward to incorporating those into future updates of the community plans, but we've included a statement in there now that the plans recognize that housing needs reports have been prepared and adopted. Another change that is proposed in this bylaw is the increase of the time period for which a temporary use permit may be issued from 2 years to 3 years. This aligns with the temporary use permit time periods that are supported in the other electoral area OCPs. It's revised wording on density in the residential and the rural land use designations to clarify minimum lot size based on water or sewer servicing. The bylaw updates Barkley Sound Marine Area policies to add policies related to the specifically to the construction of docks and mooring facilities, and included coastal riparian development permit area guidelines, which is the DPA 3 that's included in the current OCP. It's included guidelines for the development of docks and mooring facilities, as I mentioned. So the coastal riparian development permit area, which currently extends to 30 meters from the natural boundary of the ocean in the landward direction, has been extended to also extend 30 meters from the natural boundary into the ocean in a seaward direction. So this would facilitate development permit applications for new dock construction, primarily focused in Euclid Inlet and on the western portion of Barkley Sound, where it is included within the OCP area. Bylaw reduces the minimum lot size in the resource designation from 20 hectares to 16 hectares to align with the resource zoning that we have in the draft updated zoning bylaw. Bylaw also updates Local Government Act references throughout the act as that, or throughout the bylaw as that Local Government Act was comprehensively updated since the adoption of this OCP, and a lot of the references have changed. Bylaw revises the definitions to align better with the zoning bylaw, and the definitions specific to the South Long Beach OCP include home-based businesses and home occupations, home industry, riparian management zone, and the definition for a stream. The bylaw goes on to revise freshwater riparian and coastal riparian development permit areas to be measured from the natural boundary of a watercourse and not a reference to the high watercourse. The OCP amendment bylaw also revises flood construction level guidelines in the natural hazard development permit areas to, again, better align with the zoning bylaw and have revised the OCP mapping in the development permit area 4, which is for the protection of development from natural hazard areas, to better clarify that this tsunami hazard area in the South Long Beach OCP is a 20 meter above sea level area. And then finally, the map 3 land use designations and map 4 development permit area. Maps have been updated with new formatting, improved labeling, and current provincial data sets with new map sheet tile formats for improved readability. So that's a quick summary of what the bylaw proposes to update. And I will pass it along to Amy to highlight the agency referrals we've received and the public correspondence we've received today.
Thanks, Alex. I will now highlight the referral responses received. So the ACRD did receive a number of agency and First Nation referrals, And a copy of all the responses received, as well as a summary table of those responses, is available for public review on the ACRD website. There are also copies available in person in the boardroom. And these will form part of the public hearing report, which will be considered by the board at a future board meeting. And so in total, there were 25 agency and First Nation responses that were received, including responses from Tloquet First Nation, Toquat Nation, and Ukiulitat government. So agency responses received either noted they were in support of the bylaw, subject to the reasons they've outlined in their responses, that their interests were unaffected, or that they had no concerns, comments, or objections. And some of the comments received from referral agencies and First Nations relating directly to this bylaw, the South Long Beach OCP Amendment bylaw, were generally regarding things like regional growth, servicing, as well as a number of requests to meet as part of the comprehensive future OCP updates. And so staff, really, we are continuing to engage with referral agencies and First Nations where, they've raised questions regarding the updated zoning bylaw, or as well as I just mentioned, as part of the longer term comprehensive OCP updates to the areas that we completed following this. So the referral request that was sent out indicated that if no response was received by the referral deadline, it would be assumed that their agency or First Nations interest in this bylaw were unaffected. So no communication was received from 16 of the agencies and First Nations who we sent the referral to. Now, in terms of public correspondence, there were letters and email chains of correspondence with 3 members of the public that were received ahead of the public hearing. As well, one letter was received at the public hearing from Bob Schaefer, who I think is online here with us tonight. The correspondence is available for public review, again, on the ACRD website. Copies are available in person in the boardroom. And again, the correspondence will form part of the public hearing report and minutes. And so the correspondence included letters of support for extending temporary use permit time period from 2 years to 3 years, as well as general comments that relate primarily to the draft updated zoning bylaw, including things like housing, water servicing, agritourism, as well as First Nations engagement. And so this input will be considered as staff work to complete that final draft of the updated zoning bylaw that Alex mentioned earlier, and that will be considered by the board for May, or anticipated for May under that anticipated timeline. In terms of public consultation and advertising, so the notice that I read out earlier for this public hearing was advertised in 2 consecutive issues of both the Alberni Valley News as well as the Westerly News, both on March 15th and 22nd, 2023. So this is a requirement of the Local Government Act and as well as the ACRD Development Procedures Bylaw. The notice was also published on the ACRD website on March 14th, and it was linked in the event calendar, as well as there's information on the public hearing available on the zoning bylaw review webpage, as well as an opportunity to provide supplementary notice for the public hearing dates associated with the amendment bylaws. The board directed staff to place 1 or more sandwich boards in the community. So I'm sure many of you have noticed that 2 sandwich boards advertising for this public hearing were placed in the Long Beach area to provide that supplementary notice. Okay, pass it back to you.
Thank you, Amy. We will now hear representations from members of the public. If you can please wait until you've been recognized by me. Unmute your microphone if participating by Zoom. Rate, and we don't have people to raise their hand around the board table here. So if you can click on me, raise your hand, I'll recognize you. And then if you can just state your name and address before you begin to speak. We will hear from everyone wishing to speak for the first time before we allow second comments from the same person. Thank you.
So we have a number of people online here. If anybody would like to speak or is having issues unmuting themselves or connecting in, then please send them in the chat. But otherwise, if anybody would like to speak, then feel free to do so.
I'd like to recognize Ed Van Drummenden.
So just so everybody knows, we're just looking at the names of people here. So we have Crystal Balduke and Lorna Watson. We have Bob Schaefer participating. We have Ed Van Drimmelen, Gray Tarling, Janet Busby, and Marcus Klan. So if anybody would like to speak or would like to make any comments, now would be the opportunity.
I'd like to recognize Bob Schaefer. Go ahead.
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me okay?
We can, yes.
Good. In regards to the OCP, I read it and I read it again. And there's one particular item there that just stands out. And I sent an email to Veda and she passed it on to the planning department, but I'll just state it here. I'm at 235 Albion Crescent in Millstream area. And the one part of the OCP that just stood right out for me is 463 section E. And that's in regards to the proposal for a maximum of 4 lodgers in guest rooms in a residence for bed and breakfast accommodations. We do have bed and breakfast out here. And over the past 2 summers, there's been a situation with our water supply. I guess it's not something unknown. The planning department knows about it, and they sent notices out accordingly. And as a result of those notices, I did have the opportunity to talk to people at the ACRD, and they seem to think that it's the infrastructure that's the issue here. But my concern is, even though it is possibly the infrastructure, if we increase the number of patrons at these businesses, my concern is that'll put an extra load on the water supply. And if it is indeed the infrastructure that definitely is the issue, if it's degrading, would that increase in possible use, especially at the peak time in summer, would that not cause more issues with the degrading infrastructure? If not now, maybe in the future. And before we look at increasing the number of people that these businesses can accommodate, we should really extensively look at the infrastructure problem and resolve that before providing more service. What would you say?
I'd be happy to answer that. Thank you, directors. Again, thank you, Bob, for your comments and your email, which has been received and will be included in the correspondence. Just to touch on boarders and lodgers and what's currently permitted. Boarders and lodgers up to 4 are currently permitted in the ACRD zoning bylaw as a home occupation. And what a boarder and lodger or a bed and breakfast type of use is the renting of individual rooms within a home and then having shared kitchen areas and common areas. It's not the short-term rental or the Airbnb or the VRBO type of use that we have a separate application process for, a temporary use permit application. But we do have a number of bed and breakfast type of uses that have up to 4 guests at a time, and that is something that's currently permitted throughout the ACRD, both Long Beach, Banfield, and in the Alberta Valley here. And what the proposed amendments to the OCP reflect, if you look at that section E, what it used to read that a maximum of up to 3 guest rooms may be permitted in a residence for bed and breakfast accommodation, and that didn't really align with what we have in the rest of the region and also in the zoning bylaw. So recognizing that that the bylaw proposes to amend that to a maximum of 4 at a time is really an effort to line up with what the current zoning bylaw is. Now, having said that, I hear the concerns, and the Millstream water system is a small water system, and that is something that should form part of a bigger picture discussion around water availability, in the Long Beach region to support future development, and that might include future housing, or it might include future short-term rental uses, whether that's B&B or a short-term rental type of use. And that is something that, as staff, we feel is better explored in greater detail in as the ACRD undertakes a more comprehensive process to review and rewrite the South Long Beach OCP, which is, again, as you've heard, is something that the staff anticipate is a project that the region district will be undertaking following the completion of this project. So hopefully that gives you a bit of background on the reason for including that amendment, and then also the fact that we recognize that there needs to be a broader discussion about these types of uses and the impact it has on housing in the region, and then on our servicing levels. That make sense, Bob?
It does. So basically, before any that particular part of the OCP, before that really proceeds, they definitely would do some studies, though, in terms of infrastructure, then specifically water. Then is that am I getting that correct?
Not exactly. So it's a use, the boarding and lodging up to 4 people at a time is a use that's currently permitted in the zoning bylaw. It's not proposing to change in the updated zoning bylaw. It's been in place for a number of years. So it's been utilized by individual properties out in the Long Beach area that I know of that operate as bed and breakfast. I think what I'm trying to say is that before we look at development applications for things like new development that would be short-term rental focused, either hotel type of uses down to the individual Airbnb of an entire home or a suite within the home, that as the board considers those types of applications, and as staff consider recommendations on what to do with those types of applications, I think that's where we need to take a closer look at the water servicing that we have available. And because the Millstream water system is operated by the ACRD, we have staff within the organization that can help advise on things like water capacity and meeting peak flow demands and meeting fire flows in certain areas where we have fire departments as well. So that's I think that's something that needs to be looked at on a case by case basis as development applications happen. And then again, as I said before, that we need to also take a bigger picture look at how these types of development affect the region as a whole and affect servicing as a whole in the future. And we expect to do that as part of a comprehensive update of the South Long Beach OCP, hopefully later this year.
Does that address your concerns, Bob?
It does, Veda. So if I understand correctly, I guess I'm misunderstood. I thought the maximum currently was 3, but am I incorrect then? The maximum is currently 4?
So the maximum in the current OCP says 3 guest rooms in a residence. So the zoning bylaw references individuals. It references boarders and lodgers. It doesn't say 4 rooms. It says 4 individuals. The expectation that it would be 2 bedrooms at a time. And the Long Beach OCP, as it's currently written, isn't consistent with that, as it mentions the 3 rooms, which could imply up to 6 people if you're thinking of 2 people per room.
Okay, and then so to meet consistency throughout the whole throw all that area there, then it's a maximum of 4.
Yes, that's the intention. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Bob. Really appreciate it.
Do we have any other questions or concerns related to the OCP revisions at all?
Unless anybody has any other questions or concerns or comments, I think we can give it a minute just because sometimes there's a bit of a lag in the Zoom. But we're certainly not seeing any hands online or anybody unmuting.
Okay, thank you so much for your interest and attendance at this meeting. I greatly appreciate it. Please be advised that members of the board of directors cannot receive new information related to this bylaw between the end of this hearing and making a final decision on the bylaw. If any board member does so, the hearing could be invalidated and would have to be held again. With that in mind, does anyone have any final comments that they related to the OCP changes? Nicole, I'd like to recognize you. Go ahead. And your address as well, please.
Hi.
Hi.
I was late in joining the meeting. I'm sorry, so I missed some of it. I wondered, I know that the acreage is to be made smaller to allow for more houses, right? In this bylaw?
Yes. Yeah, so the one of the amendments is to reduce the minimum lot size required for an accessory dwelling unit, which is a smaller secondary home, from 2 acres down to 1 acre. So that is one of the proposed amendments.
My question is relating to the water that will be needed for these houses. Will they still function on a well, or?
Yeah, thank you for the comment, Nicole, and we did see your email about that as well, which has been included in the public correspondence. So many of the areas within the South Long Beach area are serviced with individual wells, as you know, with certain areas also being serviced by community water systems. We talked about the Millstream water system already, which is operated by the ACRD, and some of the properties along the Euclid Highway are connected to the District of Euclid as well. The building permit process is really the opportunity for the ACRD to ensure that each new dwelling is serviced appropriately with water and on-site sewage disposal servicing as well. But it's ultimately it's Island Health as the provincial authority on regulating drinking water and regulating sewage disposal in the community. And then when we look at individual wells, the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change Sustainability regulates groundwater wells and issues permits for well drillers and monitors aquifers and things like that. And they are the provincial agency that is responsible for monitoring those activities under the groundwater protection regulation in the BC Water Sustainability Act. And you know, as a regional district, we rely on their expertise and on their role as the authority that regulates those things. When we issue a building permit, we make sure that adequate, safe, and appropriate water is in place to service that house, and that sewage disposal is also in place to deal with any effluent after the occupancy. So hopefully that helps. It is a concern. I mean, we need to make sure that every new dwelling is serviced appropriately, obviously, and if there's a point in time where that can't be achieved in a certain area, it would be highlighted at the building permit stage. Hopefully that helps.
Okay, yeah, it does. Thank you. I guess I have a concern about the ecological integrity of the so-called Kennedy Lake. It's on Tlaoquiat territory. The First Nation, maybe in the official community plan, needs to be call by name. At the moment, you only have First Nations mentioned, but it's unceded territory. So that lake is really precious, and you know it, but I also read that you are planning to use the lake water for the whole area of the West Coast. So I'm concerned for the ecological integrity of that lake. It's more than water resource, it's fish habitat. And I think you have to have really close communication with the Tla'aque'ex. And that's basically what I'd like to bring to this meeting, that it really needs, you really needs to, before you allow a lot of houses to be built, and especially tourism use, short-term tourism, which uses a lot of water, you have to think of the long-term plan for the West Coast. Where is the water going to come from? Do we have an okay or not from the First Nation? Because if you don't right now, it's not going to be easy in the future for anyone. And it, you know, we want to be good neighbors. Every one of us does want good neighborhoods. So that's all I have to say. Thank you for listening.
I appreciate that, Nicole, and that really highlights a fundamental goal of the regional district is to work, you know, in cooperation with our partners. We have 10 First Nations in the region, and many of them have lands in which our electoral area C interacts with, and just to highlight the agency referral responses that we have received. We did get a response from the manager of lands and resources at Tla'aque'ex First Nation, and we've had an ongoing conversation with him and his office. We actually had a conversation with him earlier today. But the Tla'aque'ex have expressed that they would like to have a working meeting with the ACRD to discuss how the ACRD and this OCP can become more in line with the Tla'aque'ex Tribal Parks land use vision, and that's something that we've expressed a desire to be a part of a more fulsome discussion about how we can align future comprehensive updates to the South Long Beach OCP with that vision, and also what we can do in the draft updated zoning bylaw to better address any concerns that they might have. The Tla'aque'ex First Nation in their email responses included with the package that will be received by the board have mentioned things like private land sales that occur outside of municipal boundaries, float homes throughout the region, and island development outside of Tofino in the Clackamas Sound area as things that you know we need to do a better job of working together on. So that's something that we're excited to have a more fulsome discussion on, and I just want you to be aware that throughout this process, the zoning bylaw review project, which includes the amendments to the South Long Beach OCP, but also the proposed updates to the ACRD zoning bylaw, we've been working in partnership with all of the First Nations, including the Tla'aque'ex First Nation where appropriate. So thank you for that, Nicole.
Thank you, Alex. Does that answer your concerns, Nicole?
Mostly, yes, but I would like to have this consultation with Tla'aque'ex to happen before the bylaw is changed. It seems to me that if you change a bylaw and allow for more houses, smaller lots, before you have connection and a working relationship with Tla'aque'ex, you know, you're putting how did they say in English? The buggy in front of the horse, sort of. Kind of like maybe time-wise, the consultation need to happen first before you change any bylaws that are related to the proximity of the lake and how any development is going to affect the lake.
Yeah, this hearing is just to address the changes to the OCP. It's not the revision of the OCP. So this is just basically to update the terminology within this current version. There will in the future be a full OCP process, I guess it would be called. But I think what I'll do is get Mike to speak to that. Thanks.
Sure. Yeah, just happy to talk a little bit about that. So there are some amendments in this OCP to align with our zoning bylaw project as part of the work we've done with the First Nations, including Taloquit. We've had that discussions, and the commitment is to work on the full comprehensive review of the South Long Beach OCP, which is in the current work plan to start in this fall. So that hopefully that addresses your concerns. And with regards to the accessory dwelling units, that is something that a lot of residents within the Long Beach area have talked to us as staff about, and a number of people are waiting for that amendment so that they could have the option to build an accessory dwelling unit on their home. Because it is a balance between a lot of factors, but there is a lot of things where people are a lot of housing concerns and a lack of housing, specifically on the West Coast. And that is something, separately that the HRD has been working with Taloquit along with other partners on the West Coast on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As you all know, I'm new to this, so the process I'm not as clear on. So at this point, it's not the full-on OCP process. So this is just the revisions that we're talking to. With that in mind, does anyone have any final comments? Seeing none, I'd like to call for the first time for any further representations about the bylaw as it was presented. I'll call for the second time for any further representations if anybody has any concerns about this particular revision of the OCP bylaw. And I'll call for the third time for any further representations on the bylaw. Nothing online. Hearing no further comments, I declare this hearing terminated. And again, I'd like to thank you for your attendance and your interest, and look forward to more interest and input in the future when we're doing the actual OCP revision. Look forward to having more discussion. Thank you.